Welcome to the Fantasy Coaching Game Plan presented by Miller Lite. My name is Jimmy Rooney. I'm here to introduce the Miller Lite Fantasy Coaching Contest in the Pro Fantasy Coaching Game mobile app. Pro FCG is a mobile app that enables all fans to connect a game board to live football games, guess each upcoming play call in real time, and score points to rise up the leaderboards and win great prizes. This season, Miller Lite is offering prizes to the top scoring players during select Steelers games at partner venues in the Pittsburgh area. Download and register for the Pro FCG app and connect to a Steelers game in the app to enter. Participate for a chance to win tickets to Steelers versus Chiefs or Steelers versus Bengals at Acrisure Stadium at the end of the season. The more you play, the more chances you get to win. The game is entirely free to play, and there's no purchase necessary to participate in the contest. Find full contest and gameplay details in the show notes below. I'm joined today by Steelers and NFL analyst Matt Williamson to analyze the Steelers and Eagles coaching tendencies and put together a game plan for how to make the best picks in the Pro Fantasy Coaching Game app this weekend. Matt, welcome to the show.
Yeah, this has been fun. I'm psyched to dig into it. This is quite the challenge for the Steelers going cross state here to Philadelphia, a place they haven't won in forever.
Yeah, I saw since the 1960s, so hopefully
Yeah.
we can, turn that around at least a little bit this week. Yeah, so since we've been starting this, you've been able to find some of these some stats on some team tendencies here. What can you tell us about this game, big picture?
So these are we talk about the Steelers being run heavy every week, of course, because they are. Well, the only team that is run heavier than the Steelers at the moment is the Eagles. And they're the only teams that are running the ball more than 50% of the time. So the Steelers are only throwing at 48.4%. That's 31st or second, now, however you want to look at it. The Eagles are almost a whole 5 percentage points more so run heavy. I mean, they only throw the ball 43.5% of the time, which is crazy. And over their past 3 games, it's even run heavier. They're only throwing the ball 38.7% of the time. So it's pretty obvious what they want to do. And here's first off, they have the best back in the league who's setting records and already is the Eagles' all-time leading rusher in a season. And there's 4 games to go. I mean, it just tells you how Saquon Barkley's playing right now, which is remarkable. But there's also some issues too. I mean, it's a really good team, so I'm nitpicking. But the first 4 weeks of the year, they were throwing the ball at a pretty good clip. And then I don't know that they just realized that Hurts is not the engine of the offense and Barkley should be, but that's when they made a drastic change. And Hurts threw some picks earlier in the season. You know, that first month, I think he had 3 or 4 picks in the first 2 weeks, and he's only had 1 since. So they're playing it very close to the vest. Their defense keeps getting better and better. They're a really good football team, and part of it's because they've been playing with the lead a lot, but they want to run the ball a ton. One of the craziest stats I came up with, though, about this Eagles team that I don't think it's an anomaly, but it's pretty crazy, and I think this is something that's very relevant for, you know, what you're looking for here is they're a big time scoring offense. But it all comes they're really high scoring in the second quarter, the third quarter, and the fourth quarter. But the Steelers are the best scoring defense in the third quarter. They only allow 1.2 points in the third quarter. They're 5th best in the second quarter. But here's what's crazy is as good as this Eagles offense is, they only average 1.3 points in the first quarter of games. So of the 798 or 96 offenses since 2000, since the 2000 season, they rank 792nd in terms of first quarter scoring. But then they blow up, and a lot of it is on the ground, obviously.
That's really, yeah, that's really interesting. So, you know, as we've talked about, the core of our game here is each play trying to pick run or pass. And then, you know, once you guess run or pass, you're trying to pick, you know, distances, including touchdowns, large plays, short plays, things like that, the yardage on each play. And yeah, so this is kind of one of those ideal weeks to jump into this type of game because, like you've said, there's really strong tendencies And it's
Very.
interesting to hear that, at least for the Eagles, that run tendency's gotten even stronger recently. So, um, we're seeing a pretty run heavy for both teams, but
Mhm.
and also, trying to figure out when the touchdowns are going to come. It sounds like, yeah, the Eagles are one of those slower starting teams. I don't know if this has stayed true for the Steelers, but we talked about early in the year, they started as a slower starting team. Seemed that way
Mhm.
this past week, at least. But yeah,
Yeah.
so that's, a good place to start when we're trying to figure out what's going to happen on each play here.
Mhm.
Do you want to dive right into here to Steelers offense versus the Eagles defense? What can you tell us about that matchup?
Yeah, and it's gonna be a challenge. This defense keeps getting better and better. They drafted 2 defensive backs with their first 2 picks, and they've really revitalized their secondary. They're much better at the linebacker level than they've been. Bond, the guy they got from New Orleans, has been a superb playmaker, tackle for loss guy. But the guy that makes it all work is Jalen Carter. He's a defensive tackle out of Georgia, first round pick a year ago. Immensely talented, already one of the better defensive tackles in the league. Keeps getting better and better. His snap counts keep going up as well. So this is one of the top 3 or 4 best defenses in the league, without question. Now, what I think is interesting is the Eagles' opponents are attacking them out of 11 personnel with 3 receivers at the highest rate of any defense. Well, George Pickens isn't going to play this week. The Steelers really don't have 3 receivers to throw at you. So I wonder, and I kind of suspect that they're going to see something, the Eagles are going to see something that they rarely see, which is 2 and especially 3 tight ends on the field together. Because for whatever reason, teams are attacking them out of 11. But I think the Steelers are going to zag and say, we're going to put a bunch of big people on the field, make you stay in your base, try to wear down your defensive line rotation, which isn't quite as deep as it's been. Hopefully, you get off to a slow start on offense, which you have. And we can keep running and running and running. And hopefully that keeps Hurts and A.J. Brown and all their weapons, Barkley, off the field.
Yeah, that's fascinating there. Question for why, I guess, is are teams using 11 personnel because it is a good matchup for that defense, or is it just the personnel
That
level?
I don't know. I mean, because there's been enough games that it can't just be 1 or 2 teams that are super 11 heavy. I
Mm,
mean, I think early in the season it was, well, they got rookie defensive backs. We want Cooper DeJean out there to prove that he's, worthy, but he's been great.
yeah.
So I don't understand the logic behind it because I think you're playing into their hands. They want to be a nickel, they want to be in dime. So I think if you can force them into heavier defensive personnel, that might work to your advantage, unless I'm missing something why teams don't, to be honest with you, because Jordan Davis is a real force in the middle, but you can wear him down. I mean, I would think some teams might not just want him on the field at all, so you come out in 11, but he's not really equipped to play a lot of snaps. And if you force him to, maybe that works to your advantage.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, we've talked about all year that the Steelers are the run heavy team. They
Mm-hmm.
run more often than not in all situations except second and long, third and long. And it sounds like based on the Steelers receivers, the strength of the Eagles secondary, the need to wear down this defensive line and Jalen Carter and get him off the field, the strategy is going to keep being run the ball really heavy in this one,
I would
especially if you
think
can
so.
keep the
Yeah.
score down early. So,
Yeah. And as we've talked about most weeks, but they do change a little bit week to week.
mhm,
Their strongest run tendency, the Steelers, is on early downs compared to other offenses.
yep.
And really, this is becoming very noticeable is when they throw for a first down, they almost always come
Mhm.
right back to the run. I mean, we talked about that last week, but it's becoming a really strong tendency. But they do throw a little more than you think for a real run heavy team on second and third and very short and third and medium. What you would think would be rundowns, even they'll take some shots downfield. Wilson, I think, is getting more and more comfortable, more freedom. If teams start stacking the box, he's checking out of it more, throwing to his backs like in the Bengal game. So there are tendencies, but Wilson also has a lot of freedom, which I think goes a long way too.
Great. So it sounds like the main thing we're looking for on this call is early down. We're looking run. If there's a second and short or a third and short. We see there's a lot of guys on defense near the line of scrimmage. We see Russ is communicating a lot. We're expecting he's checking into some kind of pass, and that might be a chance to pick some passes. But then
Yeah.
if he does throw for that first down, then it's almost always coming back to another run, and
Yeah. Well
that's pretty
said. Yeah.
predictable for the Steelers. It sounds like that fits a game plan for this Eagles defense, and that seems like our plan for those picks.
Yes. And the only monkey wrench is you don't have Pickens, so
Yep.
who picks up that slack? I still don't think that changes your run pass tendencies that much, but it might just change a little bit of where the ball goes.
Right. Okay. So I just because I have it pulled up, let's talk about the running first. When the Steelers are running the ball, we have a little chart of Najee's carries. The yellow lines are carries under about 5 or 6 yards. The green lines
Mhm.
are carries over that. Um, what can you tell us about sort of his like yards per carry, the Steelers' success running the ball in general?
Yeah, and that's a big difference
It
between
is.
these teams that doesn't reflect great for the Steelers is that both these teams are so very run heavy, but I'm looking for the numbers here. The Steelers only average 3.9 yards a carry, which
Mhm.
is at the bottom of the league. Where I'm trying to see where I know they're already over 6. I mean, Philadelphia's at the top of the league in yards per carry. The Steelers are at the very bottom,
Mhm.
despite both these teams being very run heavy. But I think Warren's looked a little bit better than Najee lately. I think he's going to get a little bit higher percentage, and I think he has a better chance to break off a chunk run.
Great. So, and then other quick question here. This chart up here is a one game sample, but can you
Mhm.
tell us? I'm seeing there's only one tackle for a loss for Najee. Um, I
Yeah.
don't. Has that been? Have the Steelers been good at avoiding the tackle for a loss? Was that
Better
just
and
a
better.
one game thing? Better and better. Okay.
Better and better. That Thursday night game against the Browns was quite bad. They allowed 11.
Hmm.
But since then, it's gotten better and better. I think Broderick Jones has become a much better player since the bye. He's
Hmm.
blowing blocks at a much lower rate. I think that has something to do with it as well. And their younger guys in general are starting to just understand the league, McCormick,
Right.
Frazier, etc. But Jalen Carter is kind of a tackle for loss specialist, too.
Right. Yeah. I was going to ask the flip side. It sounds like there's Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, and then just in general, as the Eagles are they getting a lot of tackle for losses and running downs?
Yeah, it's a good run defense. I mean, Carter is a
Mhm.
gap shooter, so he does make plays in the backfield at a pretty high clip. Davis is more of a nose tackle, hold the point, eat blocker type guy.
Mhm.
But their linebackers, led by Zach Bond, are very active, and he plays behind the line of scrimmage a lot too.
Right. Okay. So if we're picking the run distances here, it sounds like our plan is with Najee, we might be picking the 1 to 3 yards, 4 to 6 yards options most of the
I
time.
think so. Yeah.
If you see Jalen Warren in the game, you might be more likely to pick the 7 to 10, the splash play. Um, but then if we notice early on that Jalen Carter or someone is really having a good matchup getting through to the backfield, then that's when we might be looking at more of the tackle for loss picks.
Yeah. And the numbers really bear it out after the catch. This is one of the best defenses after the catch, but it also just reflects that they're a really good tackling defense. I mean, they swarm a lot of
Mhm.
people to the ball. They don't miss many tackles overall.
Right. So if they have those quality linebackers, it sounds like these shorter run picks might be the way to go to score points this week.
I think
Um,
so. Yeah.
okay, great. And then yeah, just real quick, we'll look at the Steelers passing attack here. Again, this is the one game sample from the Browns game, but this is also the only game that Russ has played without Pickens, so it might
Mhm.
be useful for this week. The Browns have good DBs. The Eagles, it sounds like, have good DBs. So this could be similar. Or you tell me, what would you expect to see from the Steelers passing in those situations where they are throwing downfield?
Yeah, Wilson's starting to throw to the middle of the field, particularly to Fryermuth a little bit more and more these past couple of weeks. I
Hmm.
think that's noteworthy in the intermediate levels. He kind of has a history of short or long.
Yep.
Um, it's a little bit hard to judge because I pretty much know for a fact that they expected Pickens to play last week, and it went right down to the wire and kind of a game time decision not to. So they didn't have all week to prepare for life without Pickens, and he got hurt in practice on Thursday. Where this week, I'm expecting some wrinkles just because they know basically from start to finish all practice week that he's not available.
Okay. So yeah, like you said, the Russ pattern, I guess, has been, you know, he it looks like last week he took 7 throws over 15 yards, about 7 or 8, 9 throws behind the line of scrimmage. Obviously, there's yards after catch there, but
Mhm.
um, against this Eagles defense, we should still be picking on passing plays, either shorter passes or the splash play type passes
I think
and
so. I
completes.
mean, I think he's going to get the ball out. He's been getting the ball out of his hands much quicker the
Mhm.
last 2 weeks on the short stuff and
Right.
nickel and diming people more, defenses more than he has. And they're always going to take shots. That's just an
Yeah.
Arthur Smith, Russell Wilson thing.
Great. Okay. So again, in those situations where we're picking pass, we're picking sort of top and bottom of the board, and with the talented D line, maybe some sacks as well.
It wouldn't surprise me, no doubt.
All right. Great. Um, so yeah, now let's flip to the other side of the ball. You already talked about Saquon and some of the run pass trends for the Eagles. What can you tell us about how they would probably approach this Steelers defense?
That's interesting. I'm guessing the Steelers put Porter on AJ Brown, put Jackson on Devontae Smith. Goddard's out, and they're not thrown to the middle of the field very much. Hurts has really been a outside the numbers type passer more than anything, and they are kind of keeping the governors on him a little bit. I think that this Eagles team has a really good O line, but the best set of tackles in the league, which obviously sounds like a problem for the Steelers, and of course it is. But they might leave Lane Johnson and Mulata singled up on those edge rushers more than the Steelers are used to. So I do think the Steelers are going to be really aggressive with keeping Hurts in the pocket, and he tends to sit there for a long time. He has the highest average time to throw of all the qualified quarterbacks. And later as the down goes on, he starts patting the ball and getting uncomfortable. And I think they're going to keep him confined in the pocket like they did Lamar and Daniels and those guys. And they might even leave their corners on islands to crowd the line of scrimmage to try to take away Barkley getting, his explosive plays. And wouldn't shock me if that works to some degree, but they also hit some shots over the top, because I think the Steelers are going to kind of live and die by living near
Mhm.
the line of scrimmage, and maybe Minka crawls into close to the ball more than than he usually does. And I think they're going to throw a variety of blitzes at Hurts, and he will take some sacks, that's for sure. I mean, again, he holds the ball a long time, and they have some really strong tendencies too. I mean, they're the heaviest run team in the league, as we talked about, of course, but they're super run heavy on first down and late downs, but surprisingly not on second. Their second
Mhm.
down run percentage is pretty league average. It's not all that crazy. Now, one thing we have to remember about this team more than anyone in the league is their tush push. Like they know that if I take a shot on second down and miss, well, I'll probably run it on third and then again on fourth, and I can always pick up the short yardage stuff because their third and short run rate is unbelievably high because they convert it with the tush push so much. But second and short isn't. That's when they take their shots. Barkley rips off an 8-yard run. It's 2nd and 2. That's when they go over the top because they know they can always pick up that 3rd and 2 or 4th and 2 with a tush push. So I don't want to say they're predictable because they have great players, but their tendencies are as strong as any offense I've looked at this year.
Right. So again, yeah, for the sake of playing our game here, it sounds like more often than not, if it's 1st and 10, you pick run. That's a good way to get some points. If
Yeah,
it's third and short, um, especially the 3rd and 1, that's an obvious tush push for them. You can get some points picking run on 3rd down, third and short, 1st down, and then second
absolutely.
down is their chances to, especially if they get in the second and shorter, that's their chances to take shots, and we'll pick pass on those second down situations.
Quite a bit. Yeah. I
Right.
mean, more so than most teams.
Mhm.
And I think we all know that Jalen Hurts is a good runner, but just in terms of scrambles, which are, we define those as called pass play that he runs. He's been really, really good at those. I mean, he's averaging 10 yards per scramble, which is the best of his career. Then he's picking up first downs at a remarkable rate on scrambles.
Right.
But the Steelers are also the best defense in the league at limiting quarterback rushing yards.
Hmm. Yeah, that's what you've talked about playing from, Jalen Daniels to Lamar
Mm-hmm.
Jackson. Is that something you'd expect to continue, that the Steelers defense specifically might limit the scramble opportunities, or is Jalen Hurts a
Yes.
different kind of?
He's a different kind of runner because he's a lot more
Mhm.
powerful and not as elusive as those guys. But I do think the lack of scramble yards are due to the Steelers really having a defined and excellent pass rush plan.
Mhm.
They want to keep him in the pocket. They want to boa constrictor him and just squeeze that pocket while leaving him in there. And if you notice, whenever the play does break down, he almost always goes to his right. He's very uncomfortable going to the left. Well, that's where TJ Watt's at. I know it's also where Lane Johnson's at, but that's where TJ Watt is at, you know?
Yeah. Great. So I guess if you've been watching a lot of Eagles and seeing a lot of quarterback scrambles, still expect against the Steelers defense specifically that the passing plays are going to be throws, um, just because of their pass rush plan. However, if
More than usual for the
mhm,
Eagles, yes.
if you do see Jalen Hurts start to break through that pass rush a little bit, then if you're going to pick a quarterback scramble or guess that to happen, definitely expect that. It sounds like to be one of those longer splash play runs, 10
He's
plus
smart about it.
yards.
He almost
Mhm.
always picks up a first down, you know?
Yeah. Okay. Great. So yeah, you now just kind of go deep on the running game, then the passing game real quick. For obviously Saquon is their running back. They're
Mm-hmm.
run heavy on first down, run heavy on third and shorts. When they're running, it looks like he has a lot of 5+ yard, 10+ yard runs. What can you
Oh,
say
yeah.
about
Most
his
in the league. Yeah.
success here against
Yep.
the Steelers defense? What
Yep.
would you expect? Yeah.
I mean, he breaks off long ones better than anyone. The blocking's great. He's probably the most talented and best runner in the league. There's a crazy number out there that he's gone down on the 1 yard line 11 times this year, which is probably just coincidence. But
Hmm.
then that immediately leads to a Jalen Hurts tush push touchdown. You know, like
Yeah.
Barkley could have 10 or 11 more touchdowns very, very easily. The other thing that I find kind of peculiar with them is he's been a really accomplished and good receiver over his time with the Giants since he's been in the league. But it's just kind of a Jalen Hurts trend that he doesn't dump it to the running backs hardly at all. You know,
Right.
instead he runs in those instances. So I think that's actually amazingly. I think Barkley in some ways is being underutilized because he should be catching 50 balls where he's only catching like one or two a game.
Right. Yeah. So how do you expect his rushing attack to match up against this defensive line, the Steelers defense?
I do think they'll hold him well, and they're very good at not allowing explosive runs. These are two of the best. I think these are two of the best defenses in the league, but also two of the best tackling defenses in the league. Steelers team speed is quite good, so he is the most explosive back in the league. But I also think that this is one of the best defenses to at least curtail that a little bit. You know.
Right. So I guess for when we're picking the Eagles to run the ball, how does it sound to there's the talent of the back, the talent of the line. They've been really good at getting these 4 to 6 yard runs, 7 to 10 yard runs,
Mm-hmm.
that we can expect, but this specific defense is pretty good at limiting these splash play runs.
Yeah, I'm sure you're going to be really excited to pick Barkley taking it to the house.
Hmm.
And he very well could. He almost seems to do it every week. But I bet the percentage of that happening is less this week than usual for him.
Yeah. Okay. So just in terms of making these picks here, then you might be more likely to score. You have more chances to score points picking in these 4 to 6 yard, 7 to 10 yard ranges.
I would say,
Yeah.
but he's really,
Yeah.
really
But
good.
he
And
also any chance he has the yeah
yeah, I
ability
mean,
to
he
break the
might
splash play.
break Eric Dickerson's single season record. I mean, he's
Right.
on pace too. I mean,
Okay.
you're
So
talking about an elite player.
if we're picking run, we're picking close to the top of the board,
I think so.
just by virtue of the talent there.
Yeah, yep, yep.
Great. So yeah, then last thing we'll just this is Jalen Hurts passing just from last week. So 1 game sample. It looks like last week it was a lot of shorter passes below 10 yards, but
Mm-hmm.
you talked about this week the Steelers defense might be playing more aggressive and kind of, you know,
I
baiting him to
think
throw
so. That's
deeper?
just a hunch
Possible. Yeah.
that they might leave Porter and Jackson on islands more than usual in an attempt to slow down Barkley and throw a lot of different stuff at Hurts. So I do think there's a chance that Brown and Smith, who are great, just get free. I mean,
Right.
get over the top.
So a good pass plan here is just when you're picking pass, really pay attention to, are the Steelers playing aggressive? Are they lining up close to the line?
Mm-hmm.
If
So they blitz
so,
in a lot.
right. And if so, you talked about Hertz will throw it deep. So if he completes it, splash plays. If they're, 50-50 balls, then maybe pick some incompletes.
Mm-hmm.
You said he might hold the ball and get
He does
himself
hold the
into
ball a
into the
long time,
sack.
which
Um,
strip sacks and things like that could be in play with this pass rush.
Great. So if we're seeing that play out, then we're picking, the top of the board, the bottom of the board. If you think he's going to complete it, pick the splash play. If you think he's going to hold it for a sack or miss a tight window, then go incomplete. But then if you're seeing, I guess, the Steelers play more, off coverage, then it looks like he has a lot of passes in the 0 to 4, 5 to 9 yard range.
Yeah. I think that's well said. Yes.
All right. Yeah, so I guess if we're playing at home, then we're really looking at how the Steelers are lining up. If we think the Eagles are going to pass, we're really looking at that Steelers defense to pick middle of the board versus top or bottom.
Yeah, I would think the Steelers pull out some new tricks on defense for this particular matchup, especially because of the Barkley factor.
Okay, yeah, that'll be exciting to see. Great, yeah. So do you have any other major keys between either team?
One last note: I know the field goals matter for you, right? And there's a
Yep.
special teams aspect of it. We know how good Boswell is. I mean, he's ridiculous, obviously, but their kicker has yet to make a kick over 50 yards. I mean, so I think that's something you just have to be aware of, that he's starting to kind of lose leg strength, and they'll still trot him out there, but they certainly, in that neighborhood, I bet they lean towards going for it on fourth more often, or if you do see him come out there for a longer one, he has not been very successful.
That's a great key. So that's a really easy chance to steal some points. If you see the
Absolutely.
Eagles line up over 50-yard field goal, you get a pretty close to automatic. It sounds like 10 points for picking field goal miss.
I think he's 0 for 5 from 50 or beyond.
Yeah. So
which is
that
rare
sounds
in
like
the NFL now.
Yeah. You're pretty close to guaranteed getting 10 points there. If you can just look for that little key over 50-yard field goal attempt for the Eagles. Great. Well,
good stuff.
Yeah, those are some great keys. Thank you again for joining. Where can listeners find more of your work?
Yeah, just follow me on Twitter at Williamson NFL. Dale Lawler and I do the drive for Steelers.com. I do a bunch of different podcasts. That'd be great.
Great. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in. Remember to use this expertise from Matt Williamson to win the next Miller Lite fantasy coaching contest in the Pro Fantasy Coaching Game app. Thanks again to Matt Williamson for joining. Use his expert advice to win prizes at the next Miller Lite fantasy coaching contest. Download and register for the Pro FCG app and connect to a Steelers game in the app to enter. Participate for a chance to win tickets to Steelers versus Chiefs or Steelers versus Bengals at Acrisure Stadium in week 17 and 18. The more you play, the more chances you get to win. Join live contests and win exclusive prizes at Coupe de Ville, Walter's Barbecue, Lot 17, The Clubhouse, Rochester Inn, Twin Peaks, Mulligan Sports Bar and Grill, and Monaco's Bar and Grill on select game days. The game is entirely free to play, and there's no purchase necessary to participate in the contest. Thank you for listening, and may the best coach win.